Hey everyone, Mark Hall here from Knockbreda Parish Church, and welcome back to our latest episode in Life in Lockdown. And I'm joined here by Saran. Saran, how's it going?
Things are going well. Thank you for asking. How are things going with you?
Yep, not too bad at all. Saran, for anybody who doesn't know you at Knockbreda or anybody tuning in who doesn't know you, give us a wee bit of background as to who is Saran.
So I'm Saran Monson. I am currently just finishing up my third year of uni, doing French and history at Queen's, and I will be turning 21 next month. Um, I will hopefully be finishing my degree next year if all goes to plan, and that's me.
Great. Now, before we get into the details of your degree, because it is very interesting, and I think a lot of people will be keen to hear the latest on that, tell us a wee bit about your background at Knockbreda. How long have you been coming to Knockbreda for? What's your background there?
So I've been in Knockbreda pretty much ever since I was born. My grandparents attended church, Charlie and Muriel, and my mum and dad as well. And yeah, it's my home church and will always be my home church. And I have such love for the church, and I'm involved in a few different bits. I was involved in Pathfinders last year, which is our sort of Sunday morning school for our teenagers, which is something I went to growing up, and I absolutely adored it, and it was so fundamental and so helpful to me as a Christian teenager growing up. And I helped with the BB as well, which is definitely a bit more high energy than Pathfinders. It's a bit mental, but it's a fantastic outreach, and they're brilliant boys. And I've done Going Bananas, which is our Easter outreach, for most of my life when I haven't been attending it as well. And yeah, there's just a lot of brilliant stuff going on in the church to be involved with, definitely.
Goodness, I didn't realise that you had an involvement in the BB.
Yeah. Last year, yeah. So I've been doing that for a good few years. And they're definitely mental, but they're the best kind of mental. They're just they're brilliant. So crazy, but brilliant.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of people, I think, when they think of you, they'll be thinking of your degree and what you're studying and where you were. So tell us a wee bit about what you were doing, where you were, and give us an update on how all that was going. And I see there's someone in the background there.
Yeah, sorry, that's my dad. I think he's away. um, yeah, so I have been in France for the past 6 months up until about March time, when for obvious reasons I had to come home. But I was doing my third year of my degree, as I said, which has to be a year abroad. So I chose to teach. I was an English language assistant, and I was assigned to this little town called Saint-Malo, which is in Brittany, which is in the sort of northeastmost region of France, and it is very historic. And it has these beautiful city walls, and it is a really lovely place to be. I actually had wanted I had asked to be put in a place called Nantes, the region of Nantes, because I knew a church there, and I was really excited for it. And then it came back the way the system British Council works. It came back that I had been assigned to my second choice, which was Brittany, and I was absolutely devastated. And it was quite confusing as to sort of why God had chosen to do that when I knew a church out there. And the only reason I'd picked Brittany was because it was the closest geographically to Nantes, but I was quite a way away from Nantes. I was at the very other end of Brittany, and it turned out later, I found out, but unsurprisingly, God knew what he was doing. Can't surprise really, but I was blessed with an absolutely fantastic church, which was like a 15-20 minute walk from my apartment. That was the Église Baptiste Saint-Malo, and really faithful people who really love God's word, and who really love God, and really welcomed me into their church. And we got a little bit of a young adult sort of ministry up and going, and I was able to help in their markets. So evangelism is quite a different a different way of doing it, certainly in France. And one of the main ways that the church evangelizes through markets, and markets are a huge part of French culture. And they sort of have them, you know, twice a week in my little area of Saint-Malo, but they go through all the different areas. And so on a Wednesday morning, we would go out, but I would go out with them, and the rest of them would go out most of the week and give out leaflets, and there were free Bibles, and just get talking to people in the community. And that was really exciting. Yeah, it's hard work, but it was really exciting. So yeah, God just blessed me so many times in Saint-Malo, and yeah, even though it wasn't what I had envisaged it to look like, unsurprisingly, it was what it was meant to be within His plan. So yeah, I was super blessed that way.
Wow. And then you came back to Belfast in March time, is that right?
Yeah, halfway through March, when it all sort of started to get a little bit hairy on the international scene, we booked a flight pretty sharpish, and got out of France.
Wow. And what have you been doing since you came back?
I would love to say that I've been like hyper productive. It would be a lie. I haven't been hyper productive by any means, but I've been producing little bits for my primary school that I worked for, and I really, really adored working for a primary school, and I was in a zone prioritaire, so it's sort of like a priority zone. You know, there's a lot of maybe family issues or financial issues with the kids. So the kids, when they come into school, they're really excited to be with their friends, and they're really excited to see you. And I really adored the kids, and I loved the time I had with them. So, you know, I've been producing resources and stuff for them, and I think generally annoying my poor family.
That's great. Well, tell us, over the last few weeks or months, has there been anything in particular from the Bible that you have drawn upon, or you've looked to, or that has helped you in particular over the last wee while?
Yeah, I think I'll just pull it out here. James, the first chapter of James in particular, is really brilliant for lockdown, and I'd really recommend anyone to read it. There's a lot of wisdom just in the first chapter of the book, but the first 8 verses are really, really famous, and they're really applicable in our situation. I'll read the first 2 if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, and it's a really well-known verse, and it's sort of plastered across loads of Christian gifts, and you can see it everywhere. And I think maybe as a Western society in particular, we kind of lost the meaning of trials. We all face our own personal trials, but to have society tipped the way the coronavirus has tipped our society is it's seismic, it's monumental, and it's something I think we sort of assumed would never happen to our generation. And yet it has happened. And for the Bible to say to count it joy is so countercultural to what we're hearing on the news. But the reason why it says to count it joy, it says, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. There are a million and one good things to come out of this virus, but that's not really what this particular part is talking about. This is talking about the fact that through this hard time, our faith can be tested, and out of that we can have steadfastness, and we can be full and perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. And it's a fantastic opportunity for us to be able to really test our faith. You know, James goes on to talk about if we lack wisdom, we just have to ask God in faith for wisdom. And how does God provide that wisdom? Sometimes through trials like the one we are going through. So it's real reassurance to be able to say, okay, we can count this as joy because it's an opportunity for us to get closer to God, to test our faith, to become steadfast. But it's definitely countercultural, and it's something I need to remind myself of, that this is something to be joyful about.
Absolutely. It's amazing, you know, how many different passages from across the Bible that really speaks into people's lives in a situation like this. So it's great to hear from the book of James how that's really alive and has been encouraging to you. Tell us, if you were to take everything and sum it all up in a sentence as a piece of advice for people listening as to what could help them get through this particular period, what would your one piece of advice be?
remember how God's been faithful in the past, and He will continue to be faithful throughout this trial, and just know that you can use that as a way of increasing steadfastness, and of, if we ask in faith, increasing our wisdom, and whatever fruit of the Spirit we may be lacking. This is an opportunity for us to get closer to God, and we should view that joyfully.
Fantastic. Well, Saran, thanks so much for joining us. So many people have asked. I've heard people ask me, and I've heard people talk about you. So people are keen to hear how you're doing and how you're getting on. So I'm sure people will be delighted to hear from you. So thanks for all that you've shared, and thanks to everybody else who's joined us. And we'll be back next week with another episode in Life in Lockdown.